It's uncomfortable, it's unnatural, it's not what we're used to, but it's very, very profound. I agree. Jeff?
So my grandfather died the day before Sukkot and didn't allow any of this mourning process for my mother or her sisters to go on. If we acknowledge that there's great wisdom to the richness of this process, I've heard discussion about why Yom Tovim interrupt the mourning process, but it just doesn't seem right if we acknowledge the value and the power of all of this.
So, it's a little bit beyond where we are today. I can talk about it later with you. But I would say that actually, if they didn't have a chance to sit Shiva at all, then they do the entire Shiva after Sukkot. You know what I mean? So they actually would do, so if they had a chance to sit Shiva somewhat, then Shiva is interrupted. But if they didn't have a chance to sit Shiva at all, then they literally wait 7 days, which is very difficult, and then do a full Shiva for the full 7 days. But again, as far as some of the meaning behind it, I agree with you. I couldn't imagine it's got to be difficult. I agree, but there is quite a bit written about it, and I can share some of it a little bit later. I'm sure you've heard some in the past from your rabbi and others. All right, I'd like to finish with just one or two more comments here. We're going a little bit over, but I hope you'll bear with me just for a few more minutes. So, the mourning process, I started to say before that there's also an element of Kaddish, and much of the mourning process, which is for the soul of the departed, not just for us. We spoke about the psychological benefits that we may have from going through this process, but we're told also that Shiva and the mourning is also for the departed soul. And where is the soul in all of this? What does the soul feel? What are we told? What does Judaism say that the soul goes through at this point? And so there is a very paradoxical statement which can shed a little bit of light. This is not a discussion completely on this topic. This can be a 6-week course in and of itself. But in text 7 on page 170, we read, "A single moment of repentance and good deeds in this world is greater than the whole life in the world to come. And a single moment of gratification in the world to come is greater than the whole of life in this world." So all of life in the world to come is trumped by 1 minute in this world, and all of the time in this world is trumped by 1 minute in the world to come. So how does this work? So basically, physical life here in this world, according to the Torah, according to Judaism, is the life of achievement. What we achieve, achievement happens in this physical world. A world of struggle, a world of, as we spoke about in our class on struggle, on the very struggle that goes on with life. To achieve something, there needs to be a choice, and there needs to be a challenge, and there needs to be overcoming. That happens in this world. After death, that's the time when the soul is able to appreciate those spiritual achievements that they achieved in this world. Things that we don't necessarily appreciate while we're here. So death is both a happy moment for the soul, as well as a sad moment for the soul. It's sad because of the relationships and the people who are left in a world, a physical world, and they're now moving to a spiritual world. And yet, there's a joy or an accomplishment that's involved in the sense of enjoying the achievements of this world, basking in a world of spirituality, where everything they accomplish in this world is seen. You get to see what you've done. You get to see the benefit of it. That happens only in the next world. And so this is where the process of mourning helps the soul. Because the loss that the soul feels, so the soul feels there's an appreciation or a feeling of accomplishment, or not accomplishment, but pleasure in the fact that it's able to see all of its achievements. but it can't achieve anymore. And there's a pain involved in not being able to achieve anymore, not being able to accomplish anything in this world. But to help with that, we, people who are here, we can help that soul continue to achieve in this world. And like I said before, when we say Kaddish, or when we do a mitzvah, or when we give tzedakah, or anything that we do that is positive because of the influence or in honor of the soul of that person, that is like it's attributed to that person, that that person continues to live and accomplish in this world. True, through us. So imagine a person called you up and asked you to go, I promised to give somebody, $10 for a meal. Do you mind? I can't get there right now. Can you please give them the money? Right? So you're going as an agent of that other person. You're going in place of that other person because you love and you're close to that person. You're going to go do it for them. So of course you have the merit of doing it yourself. You're actually fulfilling it, but you're doing it for that other person who woke you up to it, who turned you on to it, who moved you in that direction. That's what it is when we say Kaddish, or when we learn something, or we give tzedakah, or any mitzvah, or any positive deed that we do. It's considered as if that soul continues to live and accomplish in this world through us. Which is the idea of hachayit and eliba, the living, take to heart the life of the one that passed, and we continue to live in that sort of with the energy or with the guidance or with the inspiration that that person gave us. Final comment on page 172. The whole of creation is a descent and a downward evolution from above to below. The divine intention being that this should lead to elevation after elevation. The same applies to death and mourning, for the departed as well as for the mourners. Here's a statement from a letter from the Rebbe in which he describes something different that we haven't discussed the entire class. We could have a whole class on this one statement. But to finish off with just one thought. Not only does he say, are we trying to get to a point of equilibrium and healing and get back to where we were and get back on our feet? He says no. He says, like everything else in the world, every challenge, everything we need to overcome, every descent, every struggle that we have is for the purpose of ascending even higher. The same thing goes with the passing or the loss of a loved one. Both for the soul of the one who passed, that they came down to this world and then returned in an even higher place than they originally originated from. But us too, when we experience loss, we are meant to not only get back to where we were in terms of our emotional, psychological state and all of that, but we're meant actually to grow to a new place, to learn something, to grow even beyond. Today there is an amazing phenomenon in the literature called post-traumatic growth. There's literature, quite a bit of literature on this. So whereby a traumatic event, it actually impels a person higher and better, both whether intellectually, emotionally, creatively, and to greater achievements than even before the event. And ultimately, that ought to be the ultimate if we are to experience, if we believe in God, and we believe that everything is for a purpose, and we're here for a purpose, and the person lived for the purpose, and a person passed when they did for a purpose. There's something to be learned and taken from that person's life that can propel us like a springboard. We go down, and we can go even higher. And that's the ultimate of how to be able to experience loss and hopefully the healing and the growth that can come after it. I'd like you, if you don't mind, Melanie, to read the key points on page 173.
The death of a loved one is a devastating experience with the potential to irreparably destroy the joy of life. The teachings of Judaism and the mourning observances mandated by Torah law provide a framework and a process that enables us to cope with traumatic loss, eventually regain our emotional equilibrium, and ultimately grow from the experience. A large part of what people commonly experience as grief is attributable to the non-acceptance of death. A second aspect of grief is the pain of loss. Jewish teaching counteracts the non-acceptance aspect, even as it validates and engages the loss aspect. Every moment of life is a gift from God and a sacred trust from the divine giver. The Jewish response to death is acceptance that the soul entrusted us has been retrieved by its owner, and gratitude for what was given and entrusted. A series of Torah-ordained mourning practices stave off the common grief responses of denial, anger, and depression, while impelling the mourners toward healing and consolation for the pain of the loss. Belief in the eternity of the soul and the future resurrection, combined with the knowledge that our relationship with the departed loved one lives on through our positive actions, mitigates the pain of parting imposed by death. The mourning process is not just for the benefit of the mourner, but also for the benefit of the departed soul. Hence, mourning is mandatory, even while excessive mourning, which indicates non-acceptance, is proscribed. A cardinal law of existence is that every regression is a descent for the sake of ascent. Hence, the phenomenon of post-traumatic growth, where the trauma of loss impels a person to a higher and better place